Hey, my beautiful bitches, it's me, Fiona St. James, and welcome to another episode of Fiona's Coffee Talks. And as always, I like to start off every morning with a fresh, hot, black cup of coffee. Hold the cream! I'd love to. And every morning, I also think of my favorite quote of the century by Oscar Wilde, which is, "Life is too important to be taken seriously." So lighten up, folks, because in a minute, it's all gonna be over. Hate to put it that way, but that is the reality. So, today's topic is having your parents prepared in life for, unfortunately, the inevitable. I bring this topic up because my parents are up there in the years, 88 and 81. Shoot, I just turned 55 and I'm the youngest of four kids. And I've been trying to get them for years to have some kind of will or trust or, anything like that. Any kind of legal document, which they unfortunately did not. A few years ago, they almost got it done, but then for whatever reason, the appointment that I had made for them to see an attorney to get that all done was canceled. So because they recently flew to Ecuador, not even about a week ago, I said, you might want to consider just having this done and just get it done already. So I scrambled around and a week before they left town, I was able to find an attorney. And so I was able to get both of them a living will, a will, healthcare proxy, and power of attorney. Now, all of these things are really important, I think, because, if my parents have, little money in the bank and they own property here, a couple of properties in Ecuador. And God forbid if anything were to happen and if they didn't have these documents in place, the government can be a nasty bitch at times. And, they could intervene if nothing is left in place or, a legal document saying, I want to leave my four kids. As I said, I'm the youngest of four, so obviously, that would be our inheritance. And, you don't even like to think about these things, You don't ever want to think about your parents not being around, but the reality of the matter is there's going to come a time when we're all not around. So, that unfortunately is life. And, I almost kind of wish that we would have done this years ago because now that they're older, it's when you're doing it at this stage when they are older, there's more of a chance of something happening. Whereas, if you do it when if your parents are in their 60s versus their late 80s, that's a whole other ball game. But, we ended up getting it done. So that, that took a little work. The first day that we were with the attorney, we went over everything and, they discussed what they wanted and the attorney asked a whole lot of questions. And then we had to go back a second day, the following week, for them to actually sign on the dotted line. But, you want to make sure if you have parents or even for yourself, I've had a trust since 7-8 years ago and I don't own anything. It's not like I have property or all these assets. But it just, I've just always been a firm believer that regardless, you should want to say, even if what I have is only that little bit, you want to be able to say, I want to leave it to whoever you want to leave it to. In the case of my parents, they don't just have that, there's property that, there's a little money involved, which if they didn't have this, the government could intervene. There's that ugly word probate that comes into the picture where suddenly, if there is something that you're entitled to, excuse me, as their children, if they don't have that lined up or documented officially, it could sometimes take a minute. So having a will, having a living will saying, do not resuscitate, God forbid, if they end up on life support, or having a healthcare proxy, all of that I think makes perfect sense. And again, it's difficult to even think about it because you don't want to think in terms of someone not being around, but it's practical more than anything else. And it's being prepared. It's not so much that you're planning for something, for them to not be around, but you're being prepared, words can say a lot, and I think saying that word makes it a lot less devastating when you think of the actual thought. So we ended up getting them a will. Excuse me. I need a sip of my coffee. Suddenly I have a frog in my throat. Lipstick on my cup. Sorry. So yeah, and I asked the attorney, like, what's the real difference between like having like a trust and like a will? So I think if I understood this correctly, because it still is a little bit confusing, like, living trust pretty much protects everything so that, like, let's say you're saying I'm leaving all of this to my kids. If suddenly someone wanted to like intervene, like let's say if you didn't have any kids and you wanted to leave something to whomever, or maybe you had, illegitimate kids from elsewhere, that's where they could then come in and question that. And so if anyone is sitting here questioning anything, if you don't have it in a trust, that's when it can go into probate. In the case of my parents, they've been together 61 years. They have us 4 kids. It's pretty cut and dry unless suddenly my siblings and I started fighting about, which won't happen, then in their case, the trust wasn't really necessary. But at least we have the living will, we have the healthcare proxy, and we have the actual will. So, and again, it was sort of like, even as I was doing it, I was like, oh, this is kind of like depressing. But I had to like put it in the positive light of, don't view it as like you're planning their death. You don't even like saying that. You're just, being prepared for something that's inevitably going to even happen to me and to all of you watching. Because, they say the 2 guarantees, death and paying taxes, pretty much. So anyway, it's never too late. My suggestion, don't, psychologically, I think it's easier if you're going to do that for anyone, like say your parents, because that's who I'm talking about. Do it earlier, or your parents should actually think to do that. But, if your parents are getting up there in the years, and if you're in their life and helping them out, suggest it, and suggest it sooner than later so that, you have as much time between the time that you do it and the inevitable so that it doesn't seem like, oh my God, can't believe I got to do this now, So that's my 2 cents on that. Again, not the easiest topic to talk about, but I think one that has to be spoken about. And, but when I ask people, because since I've been doing this, I'm always curious. So I'll ask people, oh, do your parents have a will or trust or a living will or anything? And I find that so many people out there do not. And it just astonishes me. So guys, do it. Get your stuff together, because you don't know what might happen. You might be leaving the house tomorrow and you cross the street. They always say you might get hit by a car. You don't know. There's no guarantees for anything. But if you do have property or things that you want to leave to people, if you want to secure and make sure that they're going to get whatever you want to leave them, have all of these documents lined up. So that's my 2 cents on that. Again, thank you so much for tuning in, for subscribing. Hit the notification button. Leave your comments. Until the next time, love yous. Bye.